Hey, brothers and sisters. All right, today I got a message on discipline and the importance of discipline. If you want to be a Navy SEAL, you know you're going to need discipline. If you want to graduate college, you know you're going to need discipline. If you want to make the Division I football team, you know you're going to need discipline. Anything good, praiseworthy, honorable, it's going to require discipline. Same concept about, say you want to get a six-pack. That's why people admire those. Or say you want to be able to run a 10K. It's going to require discipline. Say you want to get $1 million. It's going to require discipline. So with that being the basis and discipline being important, how much more of an importance is it to have discipline to do the hardest, most honorable, and most glorious task in all of human history? That is to follow the Lord, follow God. With that being said, and giving him glory and the difficulties of that race that's being set before you, there's nothing in comparison to compare the tribulations, trials, and testing that you're going to go through. Whether it's being Navy SEALs, Green Beret, being a president, whatever it is, all those pale in comparison to following God. Why? Because when you're trying to do something at that task, you're no longer going up against man. You're going to go up against the adversary, the enemy, the one that opposes God himself, the one that who was with God and turned against him, and then furthermore persuaded a third of the angels to go against him. These are pivotal for anybody claiming to be a follower of Christ and or desiring to and or doing it. You have to have discipline. This is the basis. This is what happened when David, a man after God's own heart, fell and backslid. It was a lack of discipline. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing at the time he was supposed to be doing it, and he got a little slack. Yeah, he was grinding all the years before, being faithful, being disciplined, but then that little lack of discipline, that little season of slack knocked down so much. So it doesn't matter if the last 2 years you had worked out every day and were consistent, and then all of a sudden here you are now. In the last 3 months, you've been eating Twinkies and drinking soda and playing games. You just forfeited so much progression that you had in such a small amount of time. Point is not only do we need discipline, but we need to be consistent with that discipline. Consistency and discipline are going to be hand in hand, because what good is it if you've worked out all last week and then the next week you ate junk food every day and didn't work out? You don't want to build with one hand and then destroy with the other. The ideal is to ideally lift up with both build. Discipline with consistency over time. It takes time. Everything that's important and valuable takes time. Those who are faithful in little are faithful in much. Those who are unfaithful in little are unfaithful in much. It's a long game. It's a race. That's why the Lord talks about endurance so much and perseverance so much. With all of that being said, as a president, for what we're getting into and why discipline is important, I want to share a few verses in the Word that you've already experienced in your life, but maybe you didn't understand that these are in the Word. You see, when you go to the gym and you're working out, you're getting in an uncomfortable spot. When you're starting at a new job that you thought the qualifications were higher than what you actually have, but yet you got hired, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable spot because you're going to be challenged. Every time you want growth, it's going to be in something that's uncomfortable. And therefore, you need discipline and you need to be used to getting into that spot. That's playing out to waking up in the bed, waking up in the morning when you're in your bed. One of the verses the Lord had stirred up fear and obedience and love, just so many things that he uses verse 4, starts off in the morning. He says, the man who tosses and turns and folds his arms and just says, oh, a little bit more sleep, a little bit more slumber. He says, poverty will strike like a thief in the night. That verse has struck so much terror in me so many times. I'd wake up and the Lord's like, you know, you're supposed to get up. In that verse, first thing, because that's the first temptation. When you're sleeping every day, when you go to bed, you know, say you have dreams, whatever, regardless. But when you're waking up for it's your time to start your day, that arising moment is the first opportunity. It's the first test, first temptation, you could even say, if the enemy's trying to come for you just to toss over and sleep a little bit more. Yeah, I don't work until 8. Normally I get up at 7, but I said I was going to start getting up at 6 so I could get a workout in and read the Word and cook a better breakfast. And you said you were going to do it. You know you're supposed to do it, but it requires discipline. Knowing what you're supposed to do doesn't matter. It's actually doing it. In order to do it, you have to have discipline. As to the contrast, if you don't get up, then you're forfeiting things, mass things. And when he says poverty will strike like a thief in the night, he's not talking about financial. He's talking way deeper and way bigger than that. We're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. We're talking about being with his bosom. We're talking about obedience. because it's either you're with him who gives life and abundance and blessings, or you're against him. That's it. It's that clear. And these disciplines play out into why it's important to read the word, why it's important to know who God is and to test the spirits. He says, a man of the spirit testeth all things. You guys need to have discernment on all these things being put before you, all these other religions, all these things on social media, the internet. I'm telling you, everything is in the Bible. It's genuinely in the word. You need to search and continuously search. I'm telling you, it's there. The Lord has covered vast amounts of things, everything that you need. If you're not disciplined in your studies, it's tragic. It can be the end of you, everything. The enemy can fully take you down. The devil roams around like a lion to destroy whom he may devour. Like, it's whom he may, because they're what? Undisciplined. They're uneducated. They're ununderstanding. It's like, he says, do not be ignorant of the devil's schemes, lest he has advantage over you. And he says to also, furthermore, study to show thyself approved. In order to do both of those, study to show thyself approved and not be ignorant of the devil's schemes, you need what? Information, understanding, knowledge. In order to get those, especially knowledge, you're going to need what? Discipline. All of this build up just to consistently and continuously show you how important discipline is. You get an A in your class and pass in your junior year in college. Did you have the discipline to consistently do your homework or not? Everything is based upon these foundations. These are pivotal. Proverbs is loaded for you who are new in your faith and or even older. If you haven't studied Proverbs at least multiple times, not to put a count on it, but to really dive into it, that is a great basis foundation for you to build if you're trying to do better, period. Life and everything. Proverbs. With that being said, I have on here discipline, green for good, red for bad. It's kind of self-explanatory. Hebrews 11, each verse I have on here, you should look up each verse. Yes, I've paraphrased them in a way to fit them on the board, pretty much simply put. Hebrews 12:11. Now, he says, no chastening seems good at first, but grievous. So, and then he furthermore finished, but if used, he says, brings the fruit, the peaceable fruit, he says specifically, of righteousness. With that being said, it feels bad. All right? It's like, is that foreign to us? No. That plays out in everything we do all the time. You go work out. Does it feel good getting up 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning and going to run a few miles and then work out, push-ups, pull? Does that feel good? Definitely not. So we see it play out. We already know, but we know it is good. That's why we do it. We know it is good to diet. We know it is good to save that money. We know it is good to not be a glutton. We know it is good to hold back and refrain and restrain. We know these things are good, but to read in the Word gives you so much more encouragement. God has already spoken these things. Furthermore, next verse, that's Hebrews 12:11. Next verse is Proverbs 12:1. He says love and hate. I have both of these on here. Like I said, love obviously is God. Those who are of God, those who desire God, they are going to appreciate and value instruction, reproof, aka rebuke, correction. Anything where you're trying to correct somebody. You're at the gym playing basketball. You got a little 10-year-old Timmy out there he's putting in that work. He has the heart. He has the passion. But his shot is busted. He's shooting like this. And he's trying to shoot threes when he can barely hit the rim. He needs what? He needs correction. He needs guidance. He needs help. He needs to understand you need to come way closer and you need to practice the basics. That's the same thing here, God willing, happening for you spiritually. We need to practice the basics. We go way and consistently practice the basics. Some of the greatest people in all of human history teach and preach this same concept. Kobe Bryant, he preaches the basics all the time. Point is you can go and try to correct them. God willing, the person loves you and appreciates you and is encouraged and receptive to the correction, the reproof, the rebuke, the instruction. And with that, they'll increase in knowledge. Knowledge leads you into life. Not saying knowledge alone is it, because you can have knowledge and still not make it. But what I'm saying, you're having understanding of the pursuit of the Lord. God's granting you way. It's a step towards life. I definitely did paraphrase, but he's saying it brings increase in knowledge. As the contrast is hate. When they hate, when you rebuke or reproof or correct somebody, and they hate you for it. You're at the gym working out. Homeboy's squatting and has horrible form and squatting way too much, or he's trying to deadlift. Let's say deadlifts. And he's trying to deadlift, and his back is torqued at a whole. This guy's about to get injured, and you care. You don't know this guy, but you care. You're like, I gotta go tell this guy, like, just don't do this. Like, lighten up the load.